Are you sick of letting your feelings run your life when things get tough? What if you could learn how to answer calmly and precisely, like the famous samurai Miyamoto Musashi? You can take charge of your thoughts, actions, and eventually your life by learning powerful ways to train your mind to respond instead of react. Step 1. Use I statements. The use of I words is one of the best ways to train your mind to respond instead of react. Musashi's theory was based on self-awareness and self-control, which are important for communicating clearly and keeping your emotions in check. Just changing the way you talk can have a big effect on how you deal with your feelings and disagreements. People often put the blame on others when they act without thinking, especially when they are hurt or angry. Not only do phrases like, "you always make me mad," or "you never listen to me," not help, they make things worse by blaming the other person. This is an emotional response, not an answer, and it usually leads to getting defensive or making things worse. You take responsibility for your thoughts when you use I statements, which lets you be more thoughtful and less reactive. By talking about your own feelings instead of judging others, you make room for understanding and helpful conversation. You might not need to say, "you're being unfair," but you could say, "I get angry when I'm not heard." This small change in wording can help you talk about how you feel in a way that leads to understanding instead of conflict. This method isn't just about changing what you say, it's also about how you think. When you use I words, you admit that your feelings are real and that you are responsible for them. Musashi taught that a fighter must first understand his own mind before acting on it. This way of thinking is very similar to what he said. We can't fight well with other people until we know what we're doing, just like Musashi wouldn't go into battle without knowing what his opponent was like. By using this simple but effective communication tool, you will not only avoid pointless arguments, but you will also become more emotionally intelligent and grow as a person. Step 2. Develop emotional intelligence. To have emotional intelligence, EQ, you need to be able to notice, understand, and control your own emotions as well as other people's. While Musashi was famous for being great with a sword, he was also very smart and knew a lot about himself. He knew that real power doesn't just come from being strong physically, but also from being able to control and understand your feelings. Because he was emotionally intelligent, he was able to stay calm under stress, especially when things were going crazy in battle. Before you can improve your emotional intelligence, you need to know what makes you feel bad. Things, people, or thoughts that make you angry, frustrated, or anxious. The first step to controlling these causes is to become aware of them. Musashi would often think about his feelings when he was by himself. This helped him become more self-aware so that he could predict and control how he would feel in fight. In the same way, if you give your thoughts some thought, you'll be less likely to act without thinking and more likely to act clearly. The next part of emotional intelligence is self-regulation, which means being able to handle your feelings, especially when things are tough. It was clear to Musashi that losing control of your feelings on the battlefield could mean defeat. People often make bad choices or say things they later wish they hadn't when they let their feelings take over. Self-regulation means pausing, taking a deep breath, and choosing how to behave instead of reacting without thinking. You get back control of your actions by putting that space between the stimulus and the reaction. Emotional intelligence includes more than just knowing yourself and being able to control your emotions. It also includes having understanding and good social skills. Empathy is being able to understand and share someone else's thoughts. Musashi was very good at reading his opponents. He used his strong observation skills to guess their moves and plans. In the same way, learning empathy can help you understand other people's feelings and points of view better, which can help you avoid arguments and act with compassion. Emotional intelligence also requires having good social skills, like being able to speak clearly and keep relationships healthy. Developing your emotional intelligence helps you understand yourself and others better, which lets you handle life's problems with grace and wisdom. Musashi taught that being good with your mind is just as important as being good with a sword. A samurai would never go into fight without first learning about his enemy. Similarly, you should never face the challenges in your life without first learning about how you feel. Step 3. Pause before you act. In our fast-paced world, the need to act right away can feel like too much. That is, we are taught to react quickly to everything that life throws at us. But the urge to act without thinking can cause sorrow, bad choices, and fights that aren't necessary. When you practice stopping, one of the best ways to train your mind to respond instead of react, you can do this. Musashi was very good at following this rule. In war, he didn't just jump into the fray without a plan. Before he made a move, he always took a moment to think about what was going on, his opponent, the room, and his own mood. He was aware that moving quickly can lead to mistakes and that being able to think things through before acting was important to his success. Rather than acting on instinct, he carefully planned what he did. The pause is powerful because it slows you down and gives you time to think before you react. Before you say or do something when something sets you off, like a rude comment, a stressful situation at work, or an argument, take a moment to calm down. Taking a moment to gather your thoughts, assess your feelings, and choose the best course of action is now possible. Any length of time can work. A few seconds is enough to make a big difference. You can take a deep breath, clear your thoughts, and decide how to respond carefully instead of quickly in those seconds. It takes discipline and knowledge to do it, but after a while, it just comes naturally. You can keep your feelings in check and avoid acting out of anger or fear by pausing before you act. Now you can choose to act in a way that fits with your values and goals instead of acting out of habit or pride. People who are smart are able to stop and think before they act, while people who are hasty are not. Step 4. Reframe negative thoughts. Your thoughts create the world you live in. How you act is affected by what you think about yourself and the world around you. It's easy to get stuck in a negative thought habit when things go wrong, which is when acting without thinking becomes a real problem. This is why changing the way you think about bad things is so strong. You don't have to let negative thoughts run your life. You can shift your viewpoint and come up with a more balanced response. Musashi was very good at keeping his mind strong. He knew that swords were not the only way to fight, but also the mind. Getting good at swords means training your mind to keep your thoughts in check. A bad thought can set off a strong chain of events, but Musashi taught that your mind is your most powerful weapon and that you can choose how you see things. Your first thought might be, "This always happens to me," when something goes wrong. Or, "I am not able to do this." When you have these kinds of thoughts, you feel frustrated, angry, or powerless. When you reframe, you change those bad thoughts into ones that are more positive and helpful. Don't say, "This always happens to me." Instead, ask yourself, "What can I learn from this?" Say, "I will get better through practice," instead of, "I can't do this." When you reframing something, you can take your emotions out of it and look at it with a clear head. You change how you act when you change the story you tell yourself. When you're having a hard time, remember Musashi's words, "Your thoughts are your path to strength." If you teach your mind to reframe, you'll be able to deal with things with more knowledge, resilience, and a sense of purpose. Step 5. Strengthen your self-discipline. Discipline is the basis of personal values and is needed to be successful at anything. A famous warrior named Miyamoto Musashi knew that even the smartest people don't have the inner strength to stay focused, consistent, and in charge of their emotions. Self-discipline is important for keeping emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in check because it lets people pause, think, and carefully choose how to respond. Musashi was disciplined in both body and mind. Every day, he did things that trained his body and sharpened his mind. It took him years of practice to be able to stay calm, collected, and strategic in fight. Set clear, attainable goals that focus on emotional health and thoughtful reaction to improve your self-discipline. Break up big goals into smaller, more doable steps to keep from getting overwhelmed and to feel like you've accomplished something. Self-discipline also means being able to control your urges. Distractions can make it hard to concentrate on what's important in this day and age. Improving your ability to stay focused on your goals and avoid distractions makes it easier to answer thoughtfully instead of mindlessly. When you're working on important things, make sure you have a focused space to do them. Also, know when to say no to emotional triggers, bad situations, or time-wasting habits, and fight the urge to get rewards right away. By constantly working on your self-discipline, you will build the mental strength you need to handle life's challenges with clarity and poise. This will help you make sure that your actions always match your values and goals. Step 6. Avoid taking things personally. Musashi taught that people should not take things personally in order to keep their emotions in check in a world that constantly tests their patience and sense of self-worth. One can avoid being affected by other people's thoughts or actions, which can cause rash actions and insult, disrespect, or hurt feelings, by focusing on the job at hand. Musashi's teachings, which are based on discipline, self-mastery, and emotional control, tell people to keep their own acts separate from how they feel about themselves. A warrior stays calm and focused, knowing that what other people do or say has nothing to do with who they are. You can take away other people's control over your feelings by realizing that their actions are more about them than about you. A coworker might insult you at work, for instance, and you might get defensive or angry. Using Musashi's advice, on the other hand, lets you take a step back and look at things more objectively. Their angry words might not show how you feel, but how they are feeling. Stopping to take things personally gives you the power to reply carefully instead of quickly. You don't have to get defensive or angry. You can choose how to react in a way that keeps the peace. A short break, like taking a deep breath, can give you the mental space you need to choose consciously instead of reacting emotionally. When you learn not to take things personally, every challenge or criticism becomes a chance to make your mental and emotional power stronger. Musashi's strict control kept him focused on his goal and kept him from being distracted by other people's noise. Adopting this principle will help you gain the mental focus and inner strength you need to act wisely and precisely, just like Musashi would. Step 7. Embrace stoicism. Stoicism is an old theory that stresses how important it is to control your own feelings. Miyamoto Musashi's teachings are similar to this. Stoicism tells us that we can't change the world, but we can change how we react to it. This fits nicely with the main idea of stoicism, which says we shouldn't let things outside of ourselves affect our inner peace. Musashi's way of life and fighting was based on the idea that the only thing we can really change is how we react to problems, failures, and sudden events in life. These things are out of our hands, but we have full control over how we react to them. By practicing stoicism, you train your mind to see problems as chances to grow instead of as problems that get in the way of your peace of mind. Understanding and practicing stoicism means learning to not be affected by the things you can't change in your life. This doesn't mean hiding your feelings or acting like your pain and anger don't exist. Instead, it means deciding not to let a situation change how you feel and taking it as it is. One important part of stoicism is the thought of figuring out what we can control and what we can't. Musashi followed this rule by focusing on the things he could change, like his own deeds, how well he could use his sword, and his strategy. When you think this way, you stop being stuck in the cycle of anger that comes from trying to control things that you can't change. Adopting Stoic ideas will assist you in responding instead of reacting, and will help you face each day with inner peace and strength. You can align yourself with Musashi's teachings by letting go of attachments to the outside world and focusing on your own inner state. Real power doesn't come from controlling the world around us, but from mastering our own minds.